Landing your dream job is hard, and that's why we're here. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the organizing committee, I warmly welcome you all to Know Your Niche, presented by StudPro 5.0, organized by the IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka. Undoubtedly, this evening will be a great opportunity for you all to reveal more about the job roles awaiting you in the industry. Also, this will be an ideal platform for you to clear your doubts about how to best present yourself with a clear understanding of the industry you're stepping into. So, we hope that you will get the maximum benefit out of it. To take a nice onset to the session, I would like to invite one of the secretary leads of StudPro 5.0, Ms. Parami Santiago, to welcome the gathering.
Sorry about the delay, you all. So, good evening, everyone. On behalf of the organizing committee, I warmly welcome you to StudPro 5.0, Know Your Niche, presented by the IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka. I would like to extend a special welcome to our speakers for today, Mr. E.K. Indranatha and Mr. Thilina Bandara, who will be sharing their expertise on the requirements and job roles available in the electrical and electronic streams. Thank you, Mr. Indranatha and Mr. Thilina, for accepting our invitation and taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And also, it's my great pleasure to welcome the chairman of the IEEE Sri Lanka section, Professor Pradeep Abegunawardena, and all the executive committee members of the IEEE Sri Lanka section. I would also like to welcome the IEEE Young Professional Sri Lanka chairman, Mr. Dhammika Marasinghe, the Student Activities Committee Chairman, Mr. Chamika Subasinghe, as well as the Sectional Student Representative, Mr. Vidura Bandara. And last but not least, I warmly welcome all the attendees who are with us today. StudPro 5.0 ways to bring you a whole variety of workshops and other valuable events to prepare you to put your best foot forward in your future interviews. And also a career fair to help you get interviewed by industry giants. Now, before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you who generously helped us make this event a success. I hope that you will be left with something of value for your journey ahead through this event. So I welcome you all once again to the session and hope that you will have a great time ahead. Thank you. Over to you, Pamudi.
Thank you, Ms. Parami. A small reminder to all of you. A Slido link will be shared in the chat box. So if you have any questions or any clarifications from our speakers, please drop them in the Slido. So without any further delay, let me introduce the guest speaker for the session on the electrical engineering stream. He is the Chief Electrical Engineer of Distribution Maintenance, Southern Province at Ceylon Electricity Board. He has received the membership in the Institution of Engineers, Sri Lanka, and is also a member of the Building Service Engineers in IESL. Having been the recipient of EESOC Award for the final year best project, he was also the recipient of University Colors in 1996. He was moreover a senior consultant of the Southern Construction, Sripali Construction, and some reputed companies in Sri Lanka. So, I'm extremely honored to welcome Mr. E.K. Indranatha. Warmly welcome and over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, let me know You can hear me properly?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to thank IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka Association for giving me this opportunity. Actually, this is the second time I'm joining with you for deliver some thoughts which will be valuable. And thank you very much for giving me second time for participate this event. So today, uh, today topic is know your niche. So first of all, we'll look at the meaning of this one. Uh, have you allowed me to share screen?
Yeah, you have access, sir. Can you check it?
I'm sorry. I'll continue. First of all, I would like to elaborate what you mean by that. Know your niche. Actually, it is a passion. Know your niche means depending on your ability and your interest, you are selecting a job. Can you remember in your childhood? In your childhood, somebody might have asked from you, "What is your ambitious?" You all may tell that I'm going to be a doctor, teacher, engineer, that driver. In those days, do you have proper idea how do you track your field, track your path for that particular position, or how to gather that one? But it is just a vision what you have in your thought, in your mind. But later stages, uh, now you have uh, thorough enough to know your field, know your job, know your passion, know your interest, know your ability, everything. So now you should have proper idea, proper uh, understanding what you are capable. When you're doing your electronics and power electronics, all those things. So that might be a good understanding to put path to the industry. So in present condition of the country, it is not open what you have. That means there's a big competition to find out job. So you can't find a job easily that you desire. So available opportunities you should understand so that. So that's why I'm going to give you the background of the industries available in Sri Lanka when you are going to touch the first time or later on. First of all, we can see that we have two tracks in the basically. One is government jobs and other is non-government jobs. In a level of professionals like you, there is no difference in government or non-government. You might think that government jobs are very easy and very easily you can do. We can do other works, not like private jobs. That is not the case. But in the government also, in our levels of engineer and technical hierarchy, high levels, you have to follow lot of things, and you have to sacrifice your personal life on behalf of that government jobs, even in government field. So non-government, government is not a desire. Then we'll go in next category, that is academic and industrial. So sometimes you might be think about do researches, do higher studies, and you may be interesting teaching other persons. Then you can go for academic side. In the academic side, you have to follow other higher studies, not only your basic degree. You have to follow other higher studies and researchers, lot of papers. You have to submit all those things, and by those things only you can do a good academic job. So if you try to go to industry, you can study lot of things, and while you are doing industry jobs, you can touch the academic also. That's a good thing. You might have met lot of visiting lecturers. Those are working in the industry, and same time join into the universities and doing your uh, lectures and all those things. So I also have done that one as a CV engineer. I had the chance. I'm joining University of Runa, that is faculty in Hapugala. So I'm doing some lectures there as a visiting lecturer. So it is a very good opportunity for both of us share our knowledge with students and doing those things. So uh, we will look at the other opportunities available to you in industry. That academic, you know, that academic level you can follow another MSc, PhD like that, and be a good senior lecturer, and you can find out your career path in that field. So I am basically trying here to understand the industry available you to help you to follow your career path as you desire. So can you remember your internship? You have followed your internship, maybe several companies. So as my example, I had the chance to join my internship. That is around 1996, like that. I completed my engineering degree in 1997, before 25 years actually. So at that time, we were selected to CEB. CEB in plant training, we were appointed as appointed to Kalanitis, Colombo City, like that, and we had a chance to go to Lakshapana Power Station. So you might have heard that hydropower station, first hydropower station in Sri Lanka. So in Lakshapana Power Station, we got 2 weeks training. That time, not like in these days, we don't have any transportation facilities and also uh, mobile facilities. So we went there, we got accommodation only, and then we followed that operation and maintenance works in the Lakshapana Power Station. So normally in charge of that power station is the operation engineer. Operation engineer's uh, duty is to maintain operations in the power station. That means you might have heard about CEB arrangement. I will explain CEB regarding CEB operations and all those things. So there's a national control center in CEB. Japan power stations gives their production, generation, hydro generation as per the requirement. So operation engineer is the responsible person there to give that power as required by the system control center. So in our case, we had the chance to study power station operations, power station maintenance, all those things with the environment. And at that time, we had the idea how if we have a chance to join CEB and again appoint as operation engineer Lakshapana is our desire. So like that, in my case, you also maybe having some ideas if you join in your internship somewhere in a good company and environment is suitable for you to carry on your career, starting your career. So then you might have your idea how to join that one and proceed with that particular company. So I kept that in my mind, and when I passed out, I had the chance after 2 3 years to go to the interview in CB, and we were selected as a place of work. And Lakshapan is not an attractive place because it's very remote and people are not like to go there. So anyway, voluntarily we were requested we'd like to go there, and uh, without any competition, we were given that chance. We went that power station and we started our career Lakshapan. That's a good opportunity. Like that, in that case, this is the place we like to do, and this is the way we are proceeding like that. That is coming to our mind in our implant training internship. So if you think about the CEB as a CEB is not a direct government organization, but it is board, it's on electricity board like CCB, CEB, Petroleum Ports Authority, and all those government organizations open for electrical engineers, electrical field. So in CB, in the case, yeah, this the CB is the largest organization in Sri Lanka. Like that, 20,000, more than 20,000 people are working there. Capital also very huge, and you know that power is the prime requirement in the country, and CBI playing a big role in power sector. So in CB, in the sense, it has normally called generation, transmission, and distribution. Distribution also we have divided into 4 divisions in basically under 4 AGMs. So generation is there are hydropower stations, thermal power stations, coal, coal also thermal, that is not actually, and some other renewable power stations like solar, wind power stations like that. Altogether around 4,000 megawatt we can cater altogether, but our requirement is around 2,600 in peak demand. So hydro, thermal, and all those combination of all those things giving that requirement. So all these controlled by, as I said earlier, National Control Center. So National Control Center is the place how to manage demand and supply. They decide how to manage demand and supply. Let's say we are having 2,000 megawatt requirement, then they think which plants we can have today and which are more economical, which are more convenient, like that. But our power quality we maintain very good level because we have to supply exactly the demand. Otherwise, there will be a drop like that, frequency drop like that. You might know when you are doing the theory and all those things. So, I want to come to that other scenarios in CB, that distribution, transmission, and generation. As you know, there are 3 main subdivisions in CB. Transmission is play the major role in the CB because that has the license as the transmission, and CB, all the things depends on the transmission. So 220 kV line transmissions and 132 grid stations, all those things are belong to transmission division. Then after that there are distribution, that is called 33 kV distribution system, like area offices, consumer service centers, depots, all those things belong to distribution sector. There are 4 divisions in under 4 ATMs like that. So if you start your career in CB, if you wish to start, best thing is to join generation, transmission like that, because distribution is a little bit management side, not technical side. Technical jobs are available in most of the things are in generation and transmission. So best place to start career in generation, because generation covers most of the things we studied in our universities. Power system, machines, all the controlling that I told, that power electronics, all those things are available in technical side like generation. If you start from operation engineer, then maintenance engineer, station engineers, like that, lot of things to cover in this area. But other than CB, there is a big opportunity in engineers for building services side in Sri Lanka. So if you think about that, design a building, it might have a lot of electrical distribution distribution system. So when we are doing high-rise buildings and all those things, there should be a proper design in medium voltage electrical system, low voltage electrical system, and extra low voltage electrical system, building management system. All those things has to be done properly by professional person. That's the main thing. If we start the building, we think how this building cater their energy. So there are several ways. Earlier we think about the having generators and thermal for emergency power and then CB power like that. But now we are going to concept like that green energy. Green energy means we are not mainly concerned about CB power or that diesel power. So we can have self-sufficient power generation inside the building using solar systems, off-grid systems, battery systems like that. So those are the things mainly concerned now, because now power problem is very high in the country and in the world as well as. So we are not going to have external power. Internally we try to generate whatever possible power, and whatever the result power requirement only we are trying. In the case of that building service engineers, you have to be professional building service engineer. So first you have to start from your career from the organization available in the country like CCB, some Shinnippon, Maga, like that. Those companies are doing a lot of building service engineering. And then you have to have, if you can have that membership of IESL is very good, because then it will chartered engineer means he can decide do lot of things like in building design systems. So even testing, commissioning, all those things are entitled by the chartered engineer. So in next step in the IESL there are building service engineers directory, so you can join that also in your career steps. So then you are competent building service engineer. You will become that competent building service engineer. You can do even largest building in the Sri Lanka. So that permission is given by the Building Service Engineers Directory Association. So then in this case, you have to think about new systems like power supplying from self-sufficient power arrangements like battery systems or grid systems like that. And other things is being able to operate your internal switches, all those things when you are while working in the office, remote operations, and you might with building service engineers. So that is a good opportunity for the people who are like to have IT plus electrical people can do. Even this is a good job for the individuals doing their own companies, because building services there's not a lot, not requirement of big capital, all those things. You can manage, start a job office your own, and you can start designing and constructing all those things in a small scale, and you can develop with that and can do a big job, because in other countries they are not even put up a garage without proper design. But in Sri Lanka, people are having attitude paying for engineers is useless things, because sometimes they are paying a big amount of money to the from engineers. So in other countries, but they are not doing like that, not practicing that. They are practicing proper design and follow it up until end up, and doing the commissioning and testing also by the same engineer. Then only they are satisfied. That's the best way, because when we design a cabling system, we are thinking about all the parameters necessary, that cabling installation method and cable size, protection methods, all those. But in other people who doesn't know the exactly the thing happening, they will try to have a bigger cable and waste lot of money. So there's a for your knowledge. And the best thing is to do that and convince the people in properly that economically how they benefited when they are doing proper design and all those things. So that is the good opportunity if you think about to try video servicing and doing your knowledge, using your knowledge in the private as well as in private organizations, companies like that. So the in the other part of that BOI projects are available. Lot of BOI projects constructing panel boards, switchboard, control boards, all those things in high voltage as well as in medium voltage, low voltage. Those BOI companies. What you have studied in your career path, you can use all those on. And there are so many private companies doing those things. You will have really those vacancies and you can develop your design skills and all those things in those companies. So in the sense of that continuing your career path in other production areas like Sri Lanka, there are available so many production companies. In C, you might have heard cement factories, and there are a lot of PLC controlling and new high voltage, medium voltage controlling, all those things combination. If you are doing maintenance parts of those things, you can get a lot of ideas and very interesting jobs in Mella factories as well. They are doing a lot of things, machineries and all those things. Production in production side, there are so many opportunities in Sri Lanka, like big companies like doing metal production and cement production. Those things you can think about your own um, inputs. Sometimes that's the best thing if you gather some idea in little 2-3 years time and try to switch on to your own businesses. That's the best way. There are two ways. One is while you are doing your job in the particular company, you can touch so many things. That mean other parts of how to input your knowledge and earn money. So in this case, you can try. I have an example. One engineer passed out from Peradeniya University. He's doing coconut export industry, and he's a very young engineer. He's working very hard. It's a big commitment. He's constructing a coconut export factory in the Sri Lanka. But as his age, he has gone a lot of far away, other than more than us even, because if you think about such things, very easily we can do, because there are so many opportunities. You can join with the investor, you can join with your partner and put up some company and start such export business, which is very essential in the country. So if you are more than thinking leave the country and serve other places, you can think about invest, live here and do some export and also private jobs and even touch all those things, all those parts. You can earn a lot of things while serving good things to the country. That means now we are as a country struggling to earn a lot of foreign currency, but if our young engineers, young educated people took part this burden and try to give their maximum to the society, it will be a big benefit to the country in this situation. So, can I have my time frame, please, somebody? How much I can take the time? Much? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
How long can I continue? Is there a time limit? Or? So, right.
Sorry, sir. Till 5:40 you can.
All right, thank you. Another few minutes I am available. So the thing is, in a private sector and that private sector and government sector difference, you might have understand that in the jobs like in higher level, there is no difference. That both are in equally uh, competitive and equally work because in our level that we think about that CPC, CB and CPC, SCC like that. All those companies in engineer or some technical field, high level people are working. Even in the private sector also same level, same burden they have. They have to work hard. So first of all, you should not think about that government job by sea and private jobs are very convenient and like very difficult and like that. So you have to keep it in mind. And then if you come into the private sector, so if you are working and grab some knowledge, and then you can have your own career also. Even in government sector, even private sector, you should try to follow the path available in Sri Lanka. You can take the membership in ISL, and then you have to practice like a chartered engineer, and you can do several ways to serve the country and your society in several ways. Because people are without knowledge and without any professional qualifications has come to the field and doing lot of damage to the industry because they are sometimes they interpret as they are engineers and technical people and they are take part some jobs and that will be a big disaster. Actually they are harming to the engineering field because they clients doesn't know that they are not checking that our qualifications and our BSc, all those things. Degrees are not checking by the client, but they think that those are engineers, and this is the best way to consult for our jobs and our projects. But they might finally they might be projects might be unsuccessful and they fail to complete a good job. So you all should learn properly, do good jobs, and help the nation to help the clients, help the projects, and keep the profession uplift the profession and do a proper way because in as a young guys you should have enough capability to sacrifice your time and all those things. Commitment is the most important because normally we should not used to work by 8 to 5 and we have enough time, enough courage to take the challenge and continue to work as much as possible. That depends actually in this time when as a young professionals you have if you are working hard this time, so that will be a really benefit to your future career and all those things. So that's you should take into account. And in the IESL, you have to work under chartered engineer. That depending on some reputed organization, you have to just work 4 years, and that is as a count as a training. Even your implant training and again working experience, all those things has to be uh, forward to the IESL application, and then you have uh, English paper. English is very essential for go through that ISL membership. So you have to finish that on B paper, and then when you go through that B paper, you have that research project. Actually, you have to complete that project, whatever you have selected and you are interested in, you can complete it and hand over. Then you have a Viva. When you finish all those things, you will become a professional engineer. That ISL membership is a very important thing to um, continue your career. So in earlier stages, you have technical jobs. In 5 6 years, 2 steps in your organizations, you become a manager. But you need that basic knowledge of technical and engineering, all those things to manage your down people, subordinates, and then if you have some management, because engineers are a little bit lack of management practices, management understanding. So if you can add something in your management career, like MBA or some diploma at least, then it will be really helpful to continue as a manager, because that will be necessary after 5-10 years times your work. So anyway, everything ultimately you need to be a real leader. That means after CEO like that company, head of the company, or if you are managing your own company, so everything will necessary what you have gathered. So that's why you need to work hard at your primitive stages in your first 2-3 years. If you work very hardly and committed to your job, and you show your colors, then you can go ahead. And also, if you start your own company, if you work hard and satisfied all the customers, clients, whoever you meet, then you can go through and complete good session, and then you can step up to the as a good professional guy, professional person to the industry. So uh, that's the wish, because if you retain in here, if you retain in Sri Lanka, you have studied in Sri Lanka, you have used public money in Sri Lanka for your basic education at least, then you might have spent some money for your higher education. But even that, you have to serve to the nation, and I request you all to do something here and try to work for the society at least several years. Then you can build up your career as well as uh, society of the our other people, and it will be really help for working using your knowledge what you have taken in your undergraduate time and all those things, and even in plant training what you have taken to your knowledge. Please practice them, and always communicate with the senior engineers. Even you can talk to ourselves also. There are so many people are waiting to help all young guys, and take that advantage and be a good professional, technical, competent person. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Indranath, for those insightful words. A warm request to you, sir. Do remain in the session to the end, because we have the Q&A round coming up.
At what time?
Nearly 6.
Nearly 6. All right. Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next up, let me introduce the guest speaker for the session on the electronic engineering stream. Owner, a certified trainer, and a visiting lecturer. He's an individual skilled in solution architecture, product management, while being a life coach, career coach, and trainer. So I'm extremely honored to welcome Mr. Tilina Bandara. Warmly welcome, and over to you, sir.
Quickly getting to the real crux of the matter, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being here in this evening. I'm 100% honored to be in this audience, as well as I'm absolutely great to see young minds working like this to put a vision for your own life, for what's going to happen after the college. Thinking this straight on this subject is absolutely fantastic. So let's see what we can do if you are following something related to electronics field. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to do hardcore electronics. Some disciplines, as you can imagine, are now interrelated. You may come from another discipline, but you can still work on electronics related field. So this is not just only for people who are following electronic related discipline, but it's everything now interrelated. The world is now moving fast, absolutely fast. And you can imagine the things are really happening these days. For example, let me give a quick example. While the current recession of the world has challenged most of the industries, one industry that was not, challenged a lot was IT industry. Even within the IT industry, this top field that we are going to talk, was not challenged that much. In fact, they were appreciated more. If you have talked to some of the people from the industry, you may have seen words like salary pegging, currency pegging, they get more salary and things are happening. So even during a recession, one field that got a lot of attention was this field. So if you are having second thoughts whether you should join this industry or not, I would say join the industry, because this is one of the best times that has opened many doors for people like you. I typically call you young engineering blood. So thank you very much, young engineering blood, for being in this session. And make sure you ask any question in the chat box or in the Slido app. Let's have a little chat. So the next 20 minutes, I'm going to basically catch you up and explain. Let's have a little quick discussion just to understand what you can do if you're following the electronics industry. Now, I hope my screen is visible. You can hear me. Everything's good. Just can you put a chat and say yes if everything is good? If you can see my screen, just put a chat and say yes. If you are ready to start this, just put a chat and say yes. Let's see how everything's going. Are we all good? Are we all good? Put a chat and say yes if you are ready to this. Come on. All right. Thank you. Fantastic. All right. Now let me give a quick example. Let's take a quick example, something like this. Let's say, all right, got a little problem here. Let's say we need to build a very quick product. Let's say a mouse. Let's say you need to design a product like a mouse, which is typically connected to a computer, and you want to build this from scratch. And let's see the life, kind of the lifetime of this application. So first thing first is you should first get into the phase of designing the mouse. So I'll call it here. I'll call it, that's the phase where you will design the mouse. Let's get through this. All right. I hope I can still see my screen. So here we have our mouse. Let me call it mouse. Oops. So this is our hardware, which is the mouse. It's typically our hardware mouse. Okay, it's our typical hardware mouse. And then when you design the mouse, you obviously know that you have to connect this with a operating system. So here's the operating system. We have connected it to an operating system. And let's discuss what you need to do as an electronics engineer in these multiple steps. Now, in fact, I can quickly understand in this situation that there are 4 possible paths that you can take. 4 possible paths that you can take. Number 1, you can understand when you want to design a mouse, you need someone, number 1, to design that mouse. The hardware design person, someone to design that mouse. That will be your number 1 requirement. Who will be the guy who designed the hardware level design of the mouse? Just like the gentleman who mentioned earlier talked about designing phase. The first and the foremost part of designing any hardware is designing the hardware side, which is typically done by hardware level people whose ability is core electronics ability. So you talk about designing hardware level electronics people. So these are core hardware jobs. Now let's imagine that part is done, which means we have a working prototype, working PCB, electronics are soldered, electronics are designed, everything's fine. Now we have the hardware done. Once the hardware is done, we need a little bit of brain to this hardware. Even the mouse has little software inside this. That's where we typically need the second type of people. Second type of people are called bare metal firmware developers. Bare metal firmware developers. Or you may have heard of things like RTOS, real-time operating systems. So second phase is where you bring bare metal firmware developers or RTOS people, real-time operating system developers, who will join in developing firmware inside the mouse. Lay the fabrics, lay the PCB, did the PCB designing, the electronics design, they soldered, they are done with that. So we have a microcontroller here, probably a microprocessor here, and that's done. The first person's job is done. Second person comes, who is the bare metal firmware developer. Or he can be working on the real-time operating systems. He will come and work on the bare metal firmware, which means you will write firmware on the microcontroller which is present in the hardware. That's the second person. Third person is the person who wants to make that connection between the mouse and the operating system. Typically, we call those kind of people person who will develop board support packages. You can call it BSP, board support packages developer. Board support packages. Typically, this will be the person who will make sure your hardware connects with the operating system. So you'll have to know about the operating systems more. And fourth will be the person who will work in the operating system level, right? That's the fourth one, operating system level, developing applications for your hardware, which means if it is a mouse, you have different applications where the mouse will actually work. So let's talk about those four things again. Number one, you have someone to design the PCB here, to do the hardware designing. We'll call it a hardware designer, number one. Number two is the firmware developer. You can call it the bare metal firmware developer, or probably it will be a real-time operating system which is inside the hardware. It can be any hardware device. This is a hardware device. This is a hardware device. Your keyboard is a hardware device. Your anything that contains the camera is a hardware device. Everything has a brain inside that. Typically can be a microcontroller or a microprocessor. So the second guy will write the bare metal firmware for that microcontroller or microprocessor. That's the second job. Third job, just to reiterate, is the guy who will make sure the device will connect with operating system. Operating system identifies the device. That's the third guy, who typically we call a person who writes board support packages. Board support packages means the hardware with firmware will be compatible with different operating systems. If I fix into my Linux computer, it will just work without many things. I'll have to probably download the driver and it'll just work. Who writes the driver? So probably it'll work without downloading software probably. That's because somebody has written the initial drivers in the operating system level. So somebody has to sit and think how your hardware will connect with the operating system. That's the third one. And fourth, obviously, there are application developers who will make sure your hardware will work on the computer level. These are the typical four jobs that are available. job categories, in fact, I say job categories that I will label. Now, here's the challenge to you. What do you like to work most? Let me give an example for each of those 4 categories, considering time also. Now, if you are someone who loves a lot into designing, soldering things, designing electronics, bringing PCBs, bringing up PCBs, testing where some circuits are not working. If the circuit is working, designing circuits, designing electronics, PCBs, and testing whether these things are working, that may be showing signs that you're more interested in the design, like the first phase, which is designing hardware. So you may be interested in designing PCBs, testing PCBs, bringing up the board, testing a brought up board, soldering, these kind of things, designing the first prototype of a device, and mass production of electronics boards. These are all first level, design level things. Second one is if you're someone who likes to work with very low level languages such as C or C++ or assembly, very low level languages. If you are more into those kind of low level languages like C, C++, assembly, and you like to work with peripherals like microcontrollers and microprocessors, and you are much into real-time operating systems, then you are the second type guy, where you will be more into firmware development. That's the second guy. So you will mostly work with C, C++ like low-level languages, and you will mostly work with microcontrollers, microprocessors. Third guy will be the guy who interfaces this hardware device with the operating systems. Now, imagine, let's take an example, something like the mouse, which is a very common thing, which is a generic device. The moment I plug the mouse into my USB, the computer will automatically identify that. That's because the computer, the Windows computer that I'm using at the moment, even your computer, has pre-built drivers, which identifies this generic device through USB. So somebody has to write that driver for Windows and say, look, if there is a USB connected device like this, it is a mouse. Somebody has to teach that to the operating system through a driver, a Windows driver. It can be a Linux driver. It can be porting one driver to another driver. For example, typically, this is what happens when you design a hardware system. First, you have to write the driver for one particular operating system. Let's say most of the things start with Linux. So you have to design the Linux driver for the Linux operating system, then probably port that to another operating system. You'll have to, your clients will ask, okay, I need this mouse to work on Apple. All right, then this should, the drivers should be written or ported to the Apple's operating system, Mac operating system, or somebody will come say, I want this mouse working with a mobile phone. How can you make your mouse work with a mobile phone? Well, that's interesting. That's where the third person comes. So you have to think how this phone will be identified by the operating system on your phone. Now, this is an Apple phone. So Apple phone has a certain operating system. The operating system should understand that a mouse is connected to the phone. Now, it's a kind of a not so common example, but that's doable if you're interested in that sort of thing. So if you're interested in that, typically you will work still with, a bit low level, I would say a middle level type of languages like C++, or sometimes it'll go into C# if it is Windows, or I might say Java, but not that much. But you will mostly work with the C++ layer, trying to integrate hardware with the operating system. And finally, you have, if you are someone who would like to work with high-level languages like Java, C#, front-end applications, web applications, mobile application developments. That's showing that you want to work at the application, which is the 4th level job. So I talked about 4 categories of job, 4 categories of job. Now, all those 4 categories of jobs are there in Sri Lankan market. That's the best thing. Just to quickly summarize, all those 4 categories of jobs are there in the market with different names. Now, in my organization, first level, second level, third level, all 3 type of jobs are called electronics engineer. All 3 types of things are called electronics engineer. But there are certain other organizations developers. I know an organization which separates all those 4 things by 4 different names. They have bare metal software developers, bare metal firmware developers, electronics designers, electronics PCB designers. They go into specifics and design and name these things. But there are other companies who will typically give a common name for all the jobs except the application level software development. But now I believe you are clear on what we are talking about. We are talking about that there are multiple categories of jobs if you are following electronics industry. But let me remind you one electronics industry, and if you're planning to move into the IT sector, which I invite you to join because this is the best time to join. But I want you to remind one thing. The electronic sector or the embedded systems sector does not live alone. It lives with software. Embedded systems or electronics sector does not live alone. It lives with software. So you cannot say that I am electronics guy and I do not need to know software. That time is gone. When I was joining the industry back in 12 years ago, the situation was like that. There were people who did not know software. They were just hardcore electronics type of people. They did not want to learn software because there were other people to do that, but that time has gone. So if you are thinking about following electronics related field, one know software. So software and hardware, embedded systems, electronics and software, they go together. So I invite you as young professionals to spend time very specially learning a software language, because you cannot move forward without the help of software, because electronics always go hand in hand together with software. It's like woven together, it's connected. That enough, you have to make sure that both these streams go together. Having said that, if you are coming from the electronic system, you have the advantage of moving to other disciplines very easily. So if you are coming from electronics industry and if you are interested in joining a software firm, software job, you can very easily do that because you have the general you to know and pay more attention into the software, getting to know that, considering the 4 jobs that I mentioned, 4 categories that I mentioned. And apart from that, keep all those 4 categories away. You can join all other software related industries also. You can become a software engineer. You can become an artificial intelligence engineer. You can become a machine learning expert. You can become a network guy. You can become anyone, but your fundamentals and your curiosity and your basic principles are needed. So let me quickly summarize. You have 4 categories if you are joining the electronics related sector. Number 1, electronics design sector, who is typically working with hardware. Second one is firmware development, who is typically working with microcontrollers, microprocessors, real-time operating systems, low-level languages. Next, you have the board support package developers, driver development people. You're working with middle type of languages like C++ and working with driver development operating systems is a very important subject there. And finally, you have the application level developers. So these are the 4 categories that I envision. There are multiple names in the industry for these jobs. Some people call it hardcore electronics engineers. Some people call it embedded systems or embedded software developers, firmware developers, bare metal firmware developers, bare metal board support engineers. There are multiple names. It differs from one job to another job. My quick advice is, if you are looking for the first job, go and ask for their job description. What's the objective of the job? What do they want you to do? What's your responsibility if you accept the job? And final note, even if you do not like all these 4 things that I just talked, you have enough opportunities to move into any other IT related job which is out there, because you already have the basics knowledge. So you can go into any computer science or artificial intelligence, machine learning, or any related field if you are interested in, which is basically typically linked with the application layer jobs. So we have 4 categories and you can select. And if you are still having doubts whether you should join this industry or move out or join another industry which is not directly related to IT, I would say join IT, because this is the best time. Having said that, I'll stay for a few more minutes. I know we had to stick with the time, so let's wait for a few more minutes to answer any of your questions. Over to you. I hope there's someone.
Yeah, Mr. We'll move into our Q&A session now. So there are a couple of questions in there. So, yeah. Okay, so I think these are like the questions are for both of our speakers. So if like I'll go over them. So if it's your field, you can answer it. So Mr. Tilina and Mr. Indranatha, I think you both can answer if it's your field. So I'll just go over the questions. So the first one is IESL associate membership mandatory to practice engineering in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, shall I comment on that?
Yeah.
Not actually. IESL membership is, associate membership is not compulsory for practicing as an engineer, but it will be added qualification. If you get the associate member first, normally that's the procedure. We normally in students level, we are taking student membership. Next step is the associate member. When you pass out, you can join as associate member. If you continue like that, you can, next step is when you fulfill your requirements, you can join, you can take the membership, that is a chartered engineer. There's a path, but associate membership is not a compulsory thing, and no industry is asking you are an associate member or not, or like that. No one normally giving high weightage for that one. So it is good thing if you try to follow it as a, if you're going to be a professional electrical engineer or civil engineer in a professional body. So better to join that IESL and continue your studies, and there are papers, you can join papers, you can do sessions there and join sessions, because in IESL there is if you are going interesting for the building service engineers, there are some courses, short courses, long courses. If you follow those things, you can thorough your knowledge, and it is easy to carry on your jobs. So best thing is to join with the IESL, and it is not a compulsory. Finally, it is your addition to your career. That's all. Thank you.
degree, MSc or MBA?
Shall I comment a little bit? Because as I told in my session, engineering is in your young age. That means 5 to 10 years time, you are practicing your knowledge, you are practicing as an engineer. Technical things are happening in the organization, even in CB like that. But afterwards, you switch on to the management positions. So then you should have managerial knowledge. Engineers are a little bit lack of managerial knowledge in the our studies, IEM we are doing, but little bit lack as we feel. So I recommend to go for a management level uh, higher studies if you possible, because it will definitely improve your career and you will help that one. I also have done MBA in Colombo University, so that is a addition to my knowledge, and it is easy to manage and it's a good thing, because in engineering level we are not getting any managerial knowledge enough for the doing the management job. So that's in Sri Lankan and engineering parts, little bit with getting some experience, we are uh, rising our hierarchy and we are getting managerial jobs. That's the nature. So if we are for the career, even in bank sector, even in the organizations like CEB and all those things, it will be really helpful.
Let me quickly add something there. This question is typically asked by a lot of students whether to follow MSc or MBA, and I typically ask them why do you want to do after learn after your degree. There should be a purpose, and I personally see MBA as quite a different thing, because learning your management related studies from an MBA program is just 50% of an MBA. The rest of the 50% is about the context that you make from MBA. Because think about this, you are doing an MBA, and the people who is working with you, who is learning with you, are typically people who are not from your own industry. They will be people from different other industries. But if you follow a MSc, you will work with typically like-minded people. So get this straight. If you are following MSc, you are working with like-minded people. If you are electronics, you will work with electronics people. If you are software, you will work with software people. But the moment you do an MBA, you are working with other people. So I remember I was doing my MBA, and I had to work with 60 years banking people. They are pretty old banking people. There were administrative people. There were teachers. There were entrepreneurs. So all my ideas were challenged by other people. The moment you start doing MBA, I think, this is my personal view, starting an MBA should happen at least after you get experience in your own industry for, personally, I believe, about 5 more years, because MBA is not about learning. MBA is all about connecting with people. So after the MBA, you will have a huge contact list from other industries. And when you are typically young, and if you start to do an MBA, there are many institutes who boast about giving you 1-year MBAs, cheap MBAs, but it doesn't serve the purpose. Because at the end of the MBA, you should be able to work with people from other industries. You should be able to work with senior people from the banks. You should be able to work with junior people from other industries. So it's a different skill that you're getting. So my suggestion is, if you want to do an MBA, make it a bit later, probably after you get your experience. The moment you like to work with other people, then start your MBA.
Thank you both for your valuable insights. So let me go to the next question. Is it good to join IT industry like full stack development, even if you have a degree in electronics and telecom?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, when you join the industry, having a degree is just a minimum qualification at this level. Even sometimes we have people who do not have degrees. In my organization, there are students who are doing their own, full-time work, who have just completed O levels and started working. So having a degree is kind of the minimum thing. We don't care if it is electronics degree, if it is management degree. There are people coming from University of California who has followed not directly software related things, but are working on software related work or IT field just because they're interested. They have self-learned. So having a degree related is a plus point. But all of you are welcome in the IT industry as long as you have the basics. Having basics is fundamentals are absolutely a must. And if you have learned those fundamentals and basics while being at home, if you are self-taught, if you learn them from through YouTube, that's fine. As long as you can tackle the questions, you can tackle the problems. As long as you are a problem solver, you can think differently, you can think outside the box, you're welcome. So the answer is yes. If you are following an electronics and telecom degree, you can join the IT industry and become even a software guy. I'm also from electronics and telecommunication from Moratua. Joined initially as an electronics engineer, worked about 7 years as an electronics engineer, then become a tech lead, then became a project manager, then became a consultant. So it's a different path. You can change the things in between also. And also there were friends of mine who followed electronics degrees and moved into software. They are architects now at certain software companies. So there's no barrier to entry. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah. So the next one is, if a person decides to move on with IT industry, what is the best among network engineer, system administrator, software engineer, and web developer?
I would ask you to define what do you mean by best. If you want to define best by the amount of money you get, well, you'll have to do a little bit of a dig onto that. But how do you define what is best? What do you mean by best? Is it the amount of salary you get, or is it the amount of respect you get? I don't know how to define best. So I would say it's all about what you like to do. Because in the IT sector, you will live only if you love the job. You can become the best of the best software developer in the world, but if you do not like writing software, you will not live. Even if you are paid multiple millions of dollars as salary, but if you do not like that job, you will not shine there. So it doesn't matter whether you are going to be a network engineer or a DevOps engineer, software engineers or web developer, doesn't matter. As long as you love that, you will shine. By the way, let me remind you this. If you are really asking me about the salaries, you can't compare between two things. If you think DevOps people get low salary, software people gets high salary, no. There are DevOps people who will get multiple times salary than the initial software developer. All depends on how much committed or how much passionate you are about something. And there are entry-level engineers who take multiple times salary than me in my organization because they are more passionate into their jobs. So IT industry is a fantastic industry. If you are worrying about the salary, my simple thing is don't worry about the salary. The money comes later. First thing is whether you like this, whether you love this, in fact, whether you're passionate about this. So forget the money, it'll come.
Yeah, so the next question is, can you specify the path to be followed to join machine learning or artificial intelligence career after electronic and telecom degree?
I'll be really fast. The best thing is you follow some freely available or paid courses. There are many courses available in Coursera, Udemy. Uh, there are many other learning sites available. So the best thing is you learn by yourself, self-taught. Self-taught students are the best students, we believe. So my humble opinion is you start studying the fundamentals, do projects as much as possible. The best thing is follow some structured programs in Coursera. There are many Coursera courses, plural site courses, Udemy courses. I think it's even better to spend a little money, invest some money on these courses. There are many free courses as well. But if you invest a little bit of money, you will have that knack of following. Otherwise, you will not feel like finishing. So if you invest a little bit of money on a course, follow that, finish that course, that'll be really fantastic. So the best way or the easiest way, I won't call it easiest way, but the best way to start as a machine learning engineer is to immediately start learning the fundamentals through a course.
The next one is, what is the difference between 3-year engineering degree, B.Eng, and 4-year engineering degree, B. Bachelor in Science or Bachelor in Tech? What is accepted in the industry?
I'll take first probably the main difference that we are looking in 3-year versus 4-year internship. Typically you will not be offered a permanent job because you have not proven your internship. So probably you will need to first go through an internship. Typically after 3-year degree, you can join what you call a graduate internship program. Most of the organizations offer graduate internship programs. But the real fact is, if you are really into doesn't matter whether it is 3-year, 4-year. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for asking that question. But as long as you are much interested in this field, you are passionate and you have basic knowledge and you are committed and you have enough experience through an internship or mentoring scheme, then you will be ready. So the point that I like is whether you are industry ready material. Are you industry ready? That's the question. How do you become industry ready? Not by the amount of degree time, but by internship, mentoring, how many projects you have done, how many collaborations you have done, how much teamwork have you done, how much projects have you done, failed, and how much time you have interacted with industry people. That's how you become industry ready. We are not measuring you by the amount of time you have gained your university things. Most of the time, to be honest, in our interviews we don't even check your university programs, so the things that you have learned. Those are kind of preliminary things, but we are more asking on whether you are industry ready. So I think you have to try best to be industry ready. I think that's the quickest answer to Indranath as well. He might have a different answer.
Yeah, Thilan, that's a really in private sector, what Thilan told is really correct. But in government sector, like semi-government organizations, even they consider that 4-year degree as the basic requirement of most of the engineering professions. But what you're doing in private sector after you pass out is the mainly depends on how do you proceed future, and what depends on the career. Actually, you have to be ready for the industry and do the private sector. But in the government and semi-government, in the sense, they seek for the 4-year degree as a requirement of their basic jobs. And again, IESL, if you follow IESL after that you are passing out, you should have 4-year basic degree, and then if you are in 3-year, you have to do ISL exams, some ISL part 1, actual part 2, and you have to go through that and then level the same in 4-year degree. So for the purpose of practicing as a chartered engineer and all those things. Otherwise, in the sense of working as an engineer, is anything doesn't depends your attitudes and your ability to work, and commitment is the main thing if you are doing in the private sector. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, both of you. So the next one is IESL needed for a network engineer also?
To be fair, in the IT sector, I don't have IESL membership, by the way. And as far as I can remember, none of my friends have IESL memberships. In fact, I'm only representing the IT sector, by the way. There can be different views, but in the IT sector, in the electronics software related sector, we have not seen a movement to obtain IESL membership, because by getting IESL membership, there's no added benefits or any extra things that's going to happen to your portfolio. But I have seen situations where people coming from 3-year degrees, especially like Open University, trying to match with the 4-year degree holders by following IESL programs, as Indranath correctly mentioned. But other than for that specific reason, unless you are following IESL recommended program to match any recommended qualifications, I have not seen people going for IESL membership. Network engineers specifically, no.
Thank you. So the next one is, currently I'm following the electronics and engineering management degree. So can we also work as an electronics engineer?
Can, no problem. So as I said, if you have the fundamentals and if you love the job, it doesn't matter. So let me quickly give you what I mean by fundamentals. If you want to join my company as an electronics engineer, one of the first questions that will be asked from you is how a transistor works. What are the different things of a transistor? How can we'll give you a situation and ask you to design a circuit for that at that particular time. We'll ask you to draw a circuit for that using transistors. So if you can do that kind of a thing, if you can design a quick thing using electronics, well, you are in. It doesn't matter whether you are coming from a management degree or anything else, but as long as you have the fundamentals and if you are interested about the job and if there are vacancies, obviously you are in. So if you are doing electronics engineering management, no problem joining the industry.
The next one is there an age limit to join engineering field? Is 26 to 27 too late?
I'll take first so Indranath can give his view. The youngest engineer I have seen, so I'll say again, I'm only talking about the IT sector. The youngest engineer that I've seen in the industry is someone who has completed O-levels and started his university stuff. So how what's that age? When you finish O-level, I think you are like 17 years old. So let's call it 18 years old. That's kind of the youngest person that I have seen. The oldest person that I have seen in the industry is one of my friend. He was, he started his degree in when he was 38 years old. Now he is 42, I think. Yeah, now he's 42 and he just became a software engineer. So age doesn't matter. He started his degree at 38 and became a software engineer. Got the first job at 42 years old. Oh, by the way, when I'm at my university, when I was at university first year, that was in 2006. Now you can calculate my age. Along with me, there was a person, one of my batchmate, who was 48 years old at that time. So when he got his first job, he must be 52 years old. So as long as you are absolutely loving what you are doing, age doesn't matter. So 26, 27 is absolutely okay. I was 26 when I got my first job.
Yeah, that's correct. But in government organizations, there is a age limit. So in CB, that's 35. But younger the better. As Tilna said, that if you can join in younger age, you have more time to adapt to the field, do the good thing. Normally, we know that younger age are having big commitment. When you are getting older, we have so many constraints, marriage and all those things. So in the young age, we can do a lot. So that's the best thing because we are ready to learn a lot of things in our young age. So it is best earlier if you can join, but age is not a problem for anything like that. Even in actually in a private field, but in government sector there's a age limit. Unfortunately, that is 35 in most of the organizations, semi-government even. So in private sector, I also have not heard anything for the limiting age for the any job, not only engineering, but other jobs also. That's the case.
Thank you very much. So the next one is certifications like CCNA, CCNP, Microsoft are accepted as added qualification for network engineer?
Absolutely, yes. Every I would say area in IT has their own professional qualifications. Having professional qualification is absolutely admired. So if you are into network engineering, there are professional qualifications like CCNA, CCNP, Microsoft certification, Red Hat certification. There are multiple professional qualifications. So having them will be an added bonus, because the moment you have done those kind of things, we know that you are really into this, that you are someone who is really into this. You have a thorough fundamentals, you have gone through, you have done projects, so you have a lot of attraction. Just like that, any IT field job has their own qualifications, like professional qualifications. Software engineers have their own professional qualifications. I'm more into product manager, product owners have their own qualifications. Architects have their own qualifications. UI people have their own qualifications. QA, quality assurance people have their own qualifications, professional qualifications. That's the beauty of IT sector. The moment you join the IT sector job, each job has their own professional qualifications. So the more professional qualifications that have, it's merrier always. I mean, in a CV, we will look for more professional qualifications. That's why I said earlier, what I typically look in a CV is whether you are industry ready. Not mostly into the academics, but just to check whether you are industry ready. If you feel like you are industry ready, having done professional qualifications is an added bonus always.
Thank you very much. So that's all the time we have for today. So thank you very much both of you for your valuable insight and your time taken with us to share your valuable knowledge with us. So Mr. Indranatha, please accept this digital token of appreciation from us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Tilina Yapa as well. So please accept this digital token of appreciation from us.
Thank you very much. It's an honor.
So Thank you all for joining with us in this evening, and I hope you all learned and clarified your doubts regarding jobs in each of these sectors. So let me invite Tarukshi, our publicity lead, to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, Tarukshi.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor for me to be asked to propose a vote of thanks on the occasion of this session. First and foremost, on behalf of the StudPro 5.0 committee, I'd like to thank Mr. Indranath Laval and Mr. Tiruna Bandara for the brilliant session on today's topic. It was a very informative, and I hope everyone took advantage of the opportunity to its fullest. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude to everyone on the IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka team for engaging in and supporting us on this occasion. Finally, a big thanks to our wonderful audience for joining us. Thank you once again. Have a good night.